Hey everyone, Haley here from The Foiled Plan. We are jumping back on the sublimation series. So today I'm going to be sharing with you how I create my sublimated aprons. Let's get into it. If you are already a foiled friend, thank you for joining me again today. And if you're new here, welcome. I share a lot of different content on my channel. Things like design videos, Cricut crafts, foiling, dollar store DIYs, epoxy tumblers, unboxings, and pretty much anything related to running a small creative business. So if that sort of content interests you, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button to become a foiled friend and turn the notification bell on so you never miss an uploaded video. Now that you know a little bit more about my channel, let's jump into today's video. So to start this process, what I'm going to do is head over to my iMac, but you can use whatever sort of computer you would like. You can also use an iPad or tablet, whatever you want to use. Just anything that you can print to a sublimation printer on. So I'm gonna send you over to the screen recording of my computer so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Let's go. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is open up a program called Inkscape. It is a free program, and that's what I use to adjust all of the sizes on my designs so that they are the proper dimensions. Some people will use Cricut Design Space because you can do a print then cut from there, but because the printing feature, I'm so sorry if you can hear water. It's my laundry room is next door. There's laundry on the go, and Brady is in the other room watching a hockey game, so it's not the ideal situation for audio today. But anyways, what was I saying? Some people will use Cricut Design Space, but I find that because your image has to fit within the registration marks, because their printing feature only works under the impression that you are then going to be cutting out the design on a Cricut, so everything is smaller. So I don't use Design Space to print my images that I'm going to sublimate. Now, if you have a Sawgrass printer, then you would likely be using the Sawgrass software to create your designs. I don't have a Sawgrass. I have an Epson Workforce that I have converted to sublimation. So if you're interested in kind of starting back at the beginning of me doing my unboxing haul and then setting that printer up for sublimation, I'll be sure to leave a link. But anyways, let's get into this. So we have Inkscape opened. Now, it's not necessarily going to have a blank canvas that looks exactly like this when you get started. I like to have a canvas that is the size of my paper. So the paper I'm using is ASub Sublimation Paper, and it is 8.5 by 11 in size. So you can kind of create a canvas that is that size so you know how large or small your design needs to be. So if you need to change the size of your canvas, you're going to go to File, Document Properties, and then in the page settings, you'll just kind of scroll down a little bit and it will say orientation. It should be on portrait. If you want to change it to landscape, that's cool too. I'm using portrait for this. And then the custom size is where you can adjust the page. So you can see I've got the width set to 8.5 inches by 11 inches. If you like, you can change the unit to be something different, but I'm using inches. There is also options in here if you want to go ahead and click on one of those. I know it's the same size here and here, but I just go for custom size. I don't know, it's just habit. All right, so we've got that set. You don't have to hit save or anything like that. You can just go ahead and close it. And then that canvas will save when you open up your next project, or it should anyways. So I'm going to close this, and what I need to do is import the logo that I'm going to be putting onto this apron. So basically on my website, I sell custom aprons for businesses. If you want to put your logo on it, then basically you send me the logo and then I sublimate it. And then if you want to add an adjustable strap, I can do that as well. So let's go File, and then we're going to go down to Import. And then I have my files in my downloads just because this was a logo that was emailed to me. So we will scroll all the way down, and it might just take a little bit of looking here. I know it happened before that. There we go. Okay, so as you can tell, I don't really name my files, so it's a little bit tricky to find things sometimes. But anyways, so now I have that selected. I'm going to hit Open. And then I have my image import type set to embedded. My image DPI is set to from file. And then my image rendering mode is set to smooth to optimize the quality. All right, and then if those are the settings that you always want to have, you can click Don't Ask Me Again. I just leave it. And then we're gonna hit OK. So this design is so much bigger than the 8.5 by 11 canvas. So we're going to need to resize this. So what you can do is you can grab a hold of these little nodes here and you can resize it that way. I know that I've got some space here, here, and here. So if I resize this image to 8.5 inches, then I know that I will be able to fit this on the page and nothing will be cut off because there's still a little bit of space at the sides and whatnot. So I like to actually use this area up here to change the size of my designs. So so before we actually change the design, just want to make sure that this lock is locked because it's defaulted to be not locked. And if you go ahead and change the width and this isn't locked, then your height is going to stay exactly the same and your width is going to change, so it's going to totally change and distort the image, which we don't want. So, okay, we've got this locked. We're going to change the width to 8.5, hit enter, and I have mine set to inches, so that's just something to be mindful of as well. If you want to change it to something else, by all means, you can do that by clicking the drop arrow there. And then now I'm just going to drag this so it sits right on my canvas. You can put it down a little bit, but for my canvases, I use the seam line on the top of the apron to line this up with, so it sits perfectly at the top, so I don't really have to worry about it being crooked. It just lines up perfectly. So I keep this as close to the top as possible. I do that anytime I'm doing a logo apron. So the last step that we need to do to this design before we print it is to reverse it. So if you're a Cricut crafter, the term would be mirroring. So you're going to mirror this design by flipping it. And to do that, we're going to use these arrows over here. So this arrow here flips the selected objects horizontally, which is what we want. So we're going to flip that. And now it's backwards, because when we actually press the design on the apron, then it's going to be the correct way when we remove the ASub paper. So this is all set up. We're good to go. Now I'm just going to go to File and Print. I'm selected on the printer I use for sublimation, which is again my Workforce 7720 series. And then I just like to go through, normally the last print settings that I've used are saved, but just to make sure, I'm going to go into page setup, and I always have my paper source set on alternate tray. and that is just because that's my tray 2, and that's where I have my sublimation paper. My main tray has just regular copy paper, which is what I usually do tests on. It is a good idea sometimes if you are unsure of how a design is going to turn out when you print it, to print a test sheet on just copy paper. I have actually printed this design a few times already. I was using it as a test to get my sublimation prints looking the way I wanted them to. So I already know that this is going to be the correct way to print this. So that's good. It's on alternate tray. We don't really have to worry about job. Color mode is set to color. There's lots of greens in it, so we're going to leave it at that. And in the advanced settings, I always up my quality to high. So if it's set on normal, make sure you change that. And now I'm just going to hit the print button, and then we will head over and grab this off the printer. All right, so we have our image printed. The design is mirrored, and it looks very dull in comparison to the picture that we had on the computer, so that's okay. I did mention that in a previous sublimation video, but you won't see the vibrancy until it's actually sublimated onto whatever material you're putting it on. So I'm gonna set this aside for a second, and we're gonna prep the heat press. I should mention that I did get my heat press on and starting to heat up while I was on the computer doing that aspect of things, just because this does take a little bit of time to heat up. If you're interested in the heat press that I do have it linked in my Amazon shop. It's by the brand ASub, and I did actually do a whole unboxing video. I will link that as well if you want to check that out, but don't leave, we're not done yet. Okay, so I have my heat press on, it's heating up, or it has heated up in the amount of time it took me to do that. I got through shooting this entire tutorial video and realized that I, number one, did not tell you the type of material the apron is, and I don't think I gave clear instruction for the temperature and pressing time. So I'm just gonna drop this in the video somewhere. So the apron that I'm using is 100% polyester, and I had my heat press heating up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. No, not 400, 385, Haley, 385 Fahrenheit. I don't know what was going on in my mind the day that I filmed that, but holy cannolis. Forgive me. The correct temperature was 385 degrees Fahrenheit, pressing for 60 seconds, light pressure on a 100% polyester apron. I think it's one of those days, guys. I've put all of the information in the description box below for this video, pressing times and everything. Don't listen to what I was... It's not 400. 400 is what I was using to press other aprons, and it was scorching them, and it was turning out very wrong. It was too hot. 385, 60 seconds, light pressure. Okay. Glad we cleared that up. Press time of 60 seconds with light pressure. So if I already said part of that, there's double the knowledge. The same knowledge twice. Anyways, okay, let's get back into, let's just do it. I have done so many tests. I'll show you what I mean. So I've done quite a lot of tests to figure out what temperature and time and just overall setup works best with these specific aprons, and that's something that you might have to do. Originally I would try and press a design on one of these and it wouldn't turn out right, so I would just scrap the apron and then grab a new one, and it was just very wasteful. So I've kept all of them, and now I use the same material to do test practice sublimation on before I do like the good copy, I guess you could say. Then I don't know, you're not wasting a million aprons. But the information that I'm giving you for time and pressing and temperature, it might vary depending on what you're working with, because sublimation is so dependent on so many different variables that it's not going to be the same for any two people unless they are using the exact same equipment, supplies, design, etc. So just keep that in mind, that you might have to do some playing around. But with any sublimation, you want to make sure you have your blowout paper. So I have my parchment paper from Costco, and I am just going to lay a layer down on top of the blue mat on my heat press, and that's going to protect this from any blowout from the design on the back. So if any ink goes through the apron, we don't want it to be on this, because then it'll leave a ghosted image on literally anything else in the future we sublimate. Okay, so that is protected. Now I have done this, in my experiments, I have done this using a pressing pillow. So this is basically like a Teflon sheet that is folded in half. I have a few different sizes of these. And then I have also tried it using the Cricut Easy Press mats. But honestly, for the placement that I am putting the design on these aprons, out of all of my tests, I found it worked the best not using anything underneath. So no pressing pillow, nothing, just parchment paper on top of the blue mat, and then yeah, so that's what we're doing today. So I'm just gonna grab the apron. So this is the apron, and what I'm going to do is lay it face up. And because this band at the top is a double layer, what I'm going to do is actually drop it down in behind this area here, so that the heat press isn't trying to press that as well, because that can throw things off and make things a little bit wonky. And if you were pressing it on this, I would at that point suggest using a pressing pad or one of the Easy Press mats. And this seam line here is what I was talking about over at the computer, where I am going to line up with the top of the sheet of the paper so that it is nice and straight. So just make sure that you have the right side facing out, so it should be face up. You can tell which is which by the seams. And then I'm just going to press this for about 3 to 5 seconds to get the moisture out. You don't want to do pressure that's too hard, and it's a good idea to adjust your pressure settings before you even turn your machine on, because then you can see how far this needs to come down, rather than when it's really, really hot and then you have to make adjustments. So I've already made those adjustments. We're good. You can also give it a lint roll, and then you get your moisture out. And now what I'm going to do is take my design, I'm going to flip it over so the design is face down, and you'll see the ASub label on the back of the paper would be facing up. So it's going to go in like this, and then I'm going to be using heat resistant tape. This is a must-have when you are doing sublimation. You have to work a little bit quick when you're doing this, just because this is already pulling heat down onto the apron, and you don't want the gases to start fusing the fabric before you've got it placed in. So I like to have my tape at the ready so I can just grab it and go. You can put it at the sides if you like to. And then we're gonna take 2 sheets and place it on top. And then we're gonna press down. Here we go. And we wait for 60 seconds. And cross our fingers. All right. And just be careful. Success! All right, so this turned out great. There's no ghosting lines or anything, which is one of the issues that I was having when I first started trying to do these. I would end up having like a faint line that was just like sort of offset, and I got rid of that by not using a pressing pillow. So that was nice. And then also when I first was doing this, I had my temperature at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 seconds. And I would find that it would end up placing a square that basically like scorched and discolored the apron where the heat pressed, and it would sort of like pucker around that perimeter as well. And it was something like even if you ironed over top of it, you could not get that out. So lowering my temperature and upping my time really, really helped. Now I still have wrinkles in this, so what I usually like to do is pop sections of this back onto the heat press just for a little bit. Of course, I'm going to get rid of the blowout sheet just to get out some of these wrinkles so it looks a little bit nicer for the client. All right, so we are done with the press, so I've turned it off. And the next step for these aprons is going to be adding the adjustable strap. And I'm just gonna pop over to my sewing machine and I'll do that really quick. I'm not gonna get in deep about that because I did just post a video on how to make an existing strap adjustable. I'll link that in one of the cards. You can see at the top, it's probably, I don't know, here, maybe it's over there, but I'll link that as well. That's an in-depth tutorial on how to do that, but let's head over to the sewing machine now. All right, guys, we have the final product here, our sublimated apron with our adjustable neck strap. So this apron is heading over to Leah from Liddy Bites. Liddy Bites is a small business, and Leah creates the tastiest treats that make you feel guilt-free when you eat them because she uses ingredients you can actually pronounce when you read them, and she uses a lot less sugar, and it's just a guilt-free way to snack. A lot better than the party-sized bags of chips I normally snack on. So definitely check her out. I'm gonna leave a link to her Instagram down in the description box below, so you can head over and send her some love if you head over there and you follow her page. Make sure you say that your friend Haley from the Fold Plan sent you over. It's always nice to know where your new friends are coming from and how they found you. So head over there and show her some love. Her little one just turned 1, I think. And yeah, I don't know how she does it. She works full-time, has a little one, and runs this business as well. So go mom, small business owners. Check out Liddy Bites. All right, guys, that is all I have for you today. If you have absolutely any questions, drop them down in the comment section below. I hope you guys have a super awesome day. That's all I'm gonna say. Bye.